What's up, guys, and welcome to the Team Member Perspective podcast training show. My name is Coulter. I'm your host, former top producing team member of 6 years in a hybrid sales service role. So I'm taking inbound calls, I'm helping service the customers, answer their questions, but I'm also tasked with selling. I got to a place where I was consistently writing over 200 life insurance applications every year with over about 100 plus health insurance policies as well, all while doing new business at a decent level and helping service the book. And as I think back about my tenure as a team member and the consistency that I had, the reason that I was able to be so consistent, I believe, was due to the structures that I had in place, systems and processes. Without systems and processes, that type of production would have been near impossible to have maintained if I didn't have that structure in place. And over the next 7 videos, 7 trainings, 7 podcast episodes, we're going to be covering one of 7 parts to your sales process as a team member. Each of these parts playing a very important role in your production, in you getting to the next level, okay? And again, I believe that with structure, with the right systems and processes in place, you too can experience the type of production that I did as a team member. And really the change in the actual role, like the amount of money that you can make in your role as a team member, you get to decide what you make. And I think that's a beautiful thing about this. But again, far too many of us are looking at our roles as jobs. We're not treating them as opportunities. So my hope over these 7 training videos in our sales process series, that you can start to view your role as an opportunity. Because when you start to view it as an opportunity and you start to really implement a lot of these different structures and systems and processes and really make things simple for yourself, that's when you're really able to tap into the true opportunity that the team member role actually is. What's up, guys? Real quick, just want to let you know, if you want to get in touch with me directly, here is one way to do it. You can text me at 435-512-1647. Again, 435-512-1647. If you've got a question around pivoting, how can I pivot effectively, overcoming objections, or whatever topic that you feel like you could use help in right now, text me and we'll get you some resources over. We'll get you some trainings over. But also, if you want to get involved with us here at the Team Member Perspective and you want to plug into a community of high performers, of people that are playing at a really high level, if you want to get around those people and learn what they're doing and train with us and practice with us, please text me. We can get you some more details. Again, that phone number is 435-512-1647. Appreciate you and enjoy. Part 1 of the 7-part series, we're going to be talking about finding. Always be finding. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Oh, that's easy to do. Okay? Yes, it is. It's easy to do when you don't have a pipeline of potential prospects or potential customers. It's easy to make time and find on those days. But what about the days when all you can seem to do is write policies and your day is completely full because you have all of these appointments where you're just writing new policies, you're writing new households. We even want to make time for finding on those days. Or maybe you're in a hybrid sales service role like I was, and maybe you just have those days where it's like all you can seem to do or have time to do is put out fires and answer people's questions and just do service. You don't have time to sell, okay? It's very important that you make time to prospect and to find even on those days as well. You know, when we talk about always be finding, it's always be finding on the days when you're not writing policies, when it's easier to because you don't have anything else to do, but also and especially on the days when you're busy, when you're just writing policies, or maybe you're just doing service work. Make time for finding every single day. Consistent production comes when you have consistent finding. Consistent production comes when you have consistent prospecting. If you stop prospecting, your production will probably stop as well. And maybe at that point you've experienced this like I have at points in my sales career where it's like a roller coaster of production, where it's 1 month I'm on top of the world because I had the best month ever. But because I didn't make time for finding in that month, guess what happens the next month or the month after that? And it may not catch up for a few months, but if I didn't make time for finding and continuing to fill that top of my funnel, fill my pipeline full of people, then my pipeline would dry up. And I would get to a place where it's, okay, now I'm going to have a low month because I didn't make time for prospecting. I didn't make time for finding because I was too busy doing service or too busy writing policies. Okay. So always be finding. Okay. That's a rule of thumb that has served me well. Okay. Now, how much time should we spend on finding and prospecting? This is a question that I know I had as a team member, and a lot of team members will ask. And the short answer is, I don't know. Okay. I don't know what that number is. I don't know that there's a silver bullet for that number. But one general rule of thumb that you can start and follow is 2 hours of prospecting every day. For me as a team member, what that looked like in my day is from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. That is when I started to become consistent in my production and balanced, right? I'm not just like crushing life insurance and not selling auto and fire, or I'm not just crushing auto and fire and not selling any health. I was really balanced in all areas. And I believe it was because from 9 to 11, when I started to become consistent, that was my time when I was prospecting. And I did that every single day. It wasn't sexy. It was honestly at times pretty monotonous, pretty boring. But when you do the boring work, that's when the results come, right? My days looked very similar in that from 9 to 11, I was making time to prospect every day, okay? And so again, how much time should I be prospecting? Honestly, as much as you possibly can. But as a general rule of thumb, start with 2 hours. Because I know a lot of you are in a hybrid role where you do have a responsibility to help service the book of business. Okay, and I'm going to talk about that and talk about how you can take advantage of those opportunities and how honestly that's a gold mine. But making time, intentionally putting that on your calendar every day and deciding what that looks like for you and what your version of this is, making time for at least 2 hours of prospecting a day, I think is a great place to start. And what I found is that I like to do it at the beginning of the day because I could make sure that I actually got that done. I could make sure that when I am most fresh, I'm working on the income producing activities that will actually make my paycheck more, that will actually bring more revenue into the agency, that will actually allow us to hit our goals. That is my priority because I'm a salesperson, okay? A lot of us have this backwards where I know a lot of team members, and I know, again, you got to make your own version of this, but a lot of team members will show up into the office and they will start just tackling the service. You'll get right into your service and your emails, responding to all the underwriting stuff, and you get a billing question and you completely stop all your sales, stop all the things that are actually going to move the needle for you to take care of this billing issue that really you could probably delegate, or maybe even you could save for later in the afternoon. And what happens is because you're doing that and you're putting off your prospecting, it's like the prospecting continues to get pushed out further and further. And now all of a sudden the afternoon's hit. Now you're tired. You just got back from lunch. And a lot of you are eating just not great food at lunch, and you get back and you're just like in a food coma and you don't have any energy. Okay. That is why I would do it at the beginning of the day. Okay. But it's all about what's the priority? What is your purpose for being in the office? What is your primary goal? If it's to sell policies, then your day should reflect that. Make time for the activities that are going to make you money, and things start to change beautifully. And what happens is, I know a lot of you might be thinking, yeah, maybe you could do that, but in my role, there's no way. But here's the thing. I'm not saying don't do the service work. I'm saying do the prospecting, do the income producing activities first, and then save the rest for later on in the day. Maybe save the service work for later on in the day when you're tired and you're back from lunch and you're sitting on a heavy stomach and you're in that food coma. But I want to position myself to win every day. If I want to sell more policies, I want to have the income producing activities placed in my day at the best possible spot for me to win. I want to set myself up to win. And that's why I do it in the morning. And here's the thing. I believe that in the morning from 9 to 11, I am the most fresh. Okay. I just got off a fresh night's rest. I'm fresh that way. But I also am very strategic with what I do before I get into the office that allows me to set myself up for the day. A morning routine. And so I want to make sure that I'm using those things strategically, using my time wisely, and working with myself in a way that sets myself up for the best possible option for success by prospecting from 9 to 11. And I make sure it gets done. And the other thing is think about your customers, think about people, think about your prospects. When the people that you're calling, you're following up with in those 2 hours, they're fresh too. And if people have a desk, usually in the morning, they're right around their desk. Okay. And they may not be as bothered or as short fused because it's the first part of the day. Okay. So that's why I like prospecting in the mornings from 9 to 11. But again, what's your version of this? Find 2 hours a day and commit to 2 hours of prospecting every day and watch what happens to your production. Now, consistent finding will always lead to consistent production. If you're inconsistent in your finding, you'll probably have inconsistent production. So make sure that happens every day. And in regards to your finding efforts, stop waiting around for your agent to just provide you all these leads. Now, here's the deal. It's like the team member role for a lot of us. We're not only salespeople, but we're also in a lot of ways marketers. That we're not only doing a lot of selling, but we're trying to find out how we can add more prospects to our funnel to sell to. And I would encourage you to really evaluate your finding efforts. Are you being more of a reactive finder or reactive prospector where you're waiting for internet leads to come in, you're waiting for the company leads, you're waiting for an event to happen, you're waiting? Or are you also adding in some proactive finding efforts? Some of the most successful team members, the most consistent top producing team members that I have interacted with, all are reactive with the leads that they are given and that they're waiting for those to come in to work, but they are also proactive in their finding efforts as well. They're not just only relying on those leads on things that will be given to them, but they're also using their initiative to go out and be proactive with their finding efforts as well. So be proactive. Don't just be reactive with your finding efforts. At the end of the day, guys, you get to decide what your paycheck says. And this is a true opportunity. It's not a job. But if you're just being reactive, you're treating it as a job. I would suggest maybe try to treat it as an opportunity and watch what happens to your commission check. So, being proactive, always finding is going to lead to consistent production. And we get it, right? Now, what do we do in those 2 hours of prospecting time? And a lot of you probably thinking that, okay, 2 hours, that seems like pretty excessive, Coulter. Guys, we got 8 hours in the day. Can you, 2 hours is a small sliver to this thing. So I want to go through a couple things that in regards to kind of what do we do with this 2 hours? Now, in regards to prospecting, in regards to finding new prospects to add to our funnel, there's really 3 areas that I see that we can prospect in, where we can find new customers. The first area is new business. This is our internet leads, whether those are auto leads, fire leads, even life leads, maybe event leads. Maybe your agency is part of, you sponsor golf tournaments and you're a whole sponsor. Maybe you go to home and garden shows. Maybe you go to baseball games. Maybe you're going to a fair. Event leads, inbound quote calls. Most agencies are spending money on search engine optimization, on Google Ads, on Google AdWords to drive more traffic online to the agency website to get more people inquiring on quotes. Maybe it's aged leads. Okay, and that's going to be more of a proactive approach. Maybe it's your previous customers, people that were a customer of yours 2 years ago but left you, 3 years ago but left you. That's going to be another proactive approach. Maybe you're getting live transfers. All of you are getting company leads. And then the last 2 that I think fall under new business, but we're going to save for different training videos, is follow-up. All of the people that you have quoted but that haven't been closed that are in your follow-up funnel, but also referrals. And again, referrals is so important that we're going to say this for another time, but your referrals and even your networks, okay? People of influence in your community, people that you know. The key to many is one. And again, the top producing team members that I know are all very proactive with their finding efforts. We can find and we can prospect with anything new business. Now, the second area of where we can find and prospect in our agencies is the everyday service, whether it's inbound calls, the everyday service transactions, or maybe it's your service tasks. Cross-selling. If you're not cross-selling or if you're not having a proactive effort to cross-sell, I think you're leaving a lot of money on the table. This is really where we can add more policies, fill in more gaps with people that already trust us. It's underappreciated for sure. It's really where we can also make policies that we've written for current customers worth more. We can make policies worth more. When they're paying more premium, you and the agency, you make more money, okay? And the mindset that I have as a hybrid sales service role that served me really well and really reframed service for me, because I know a lot of you have a limiting belief that if I didn't have to do all this service work, then I would have more time to sell. I want to challenge that. And I wish someone would have challenged me earlier, because in my mind, I treated service as completely separate from sales, just like you might. And my mind wasn't primed. It wasn't prepared to treat service as an opportunity until I started to be intentional with my mindset and intentional with every interaction is an opportunity. And so that is a mindset that I would encourage you to develop, that anytime you get to talk to someone, it's an opportunity. Can you cross-sell something? Can you help maybe make a policy worth more? There's so many opportunities within the current book of business that we overlook because we think it's just service. We think it's a waste of our time, when in all reality, it's actually a goldmine of opportunity. And then the mindset outside of every interaction is an opportunity. Another one that I developed and really let sit in my mind every day was take care plus one. Take care of your people. Like, actually take care of them. And guess what? When you really take care of them, you're like priming this opportunity. You're setting yourself up for an opportunity. Because when people feel that they're being taken care of and you do over deliver and you actually take care of them, you deliver on the promise that you and your agency made to them when they signed up. When you actually take care of them and just do the bare minimum and just take care of people, you're setting yourself up for an amazing opportunity. I sold a lot of insurance from the everyday service calls and tasks. You will not create opportunities. You will not sell from service if you are treating service as a time suck, as something that is completely separate from sales. Mesh the two. Because here's the thing. Think about calling like 100 people. Let's say it's an aged lead list. You're calling 100 people in maybe, let's say, an hour's worth of time just for 10 people to answer. How frustrating is that? And when they answer, you're a complete stranger. It's a cold call. It's really hard to sell. There's a lot more that has to be done with these strangers, with these cold calls. You got to build trust with them. They don't know who you are. You got to build trust with them. But before you even do any of that, you got to get their time and attention. When people are calling us with their service, when they have accounts with us, when they're specifically calling us, they're giving us their time and attention. They're calling us. They're calling you. But also when they're your current customers, and maybe it's a service task, when you call them, like, they're far more likely to answer, or they're going to call you back, especially if you need something from them from a service task. Okay, so the service is a gold mine of opportunity. That's the second area where you can prospect every day. And then the third area is the book of business. This is the proactive approach. This is where we are running certain lists, certain campaigns to call our current customers to offer them more policies, to offer them more coverage, to fill in gaps that they may not know that they have. And again, I think this is a great place to write a lot of life insurance, to write a lot of health insurance, to write a lot of umbrella policy, a lot of personal articles policies, make policies worth more is our current book of business. And the difference between this and service is we're being proactive. We're not waiting for the customers to call us. We're not waiting for the service task to come. We're being proactive. And I think what's important with these working the book is being very specific with your approach. Being very specific with your campaign. Pick one line. That's your campaign. Stop trying to cover every single need that they have. Liability, life insurance, health insurance. Stop trying to do all of that when you're creating these outbound campaigns from your book of business, and just pick one. Be a sniper. Go in with a sniper approach. And I think when you can think of working the book with one specific strategy, it becomes a lot easier to create strategies that are actually compelling. And it allows you to deliver basically your sales pitch in a way that's compelling, in a way that's very simple for the customer. I believe that the space that we're in, insurance, is a very complex space. Most people do not understand insurance, which makes it difficult for us salespeople who we understand insurance, but if we're not able to keep it simple, if it's complex, people aren't going to choose to go through with the policy. They're going to give you every objection that you're hearing. It's going to cause analysis paralysis. Because it's too complex, they don't want to make the wrong decision. And if our outbound campaigns aren't very specific, we don't have specific approach with specific lines, then I think it introduces more complexity in the conversation, which leads to more follow-up, and this endless follow-up leads to more objections that you get, and it leads to us as team members feeling frustrated, feeling discouraged, and feeling these strategies just don't work anymore. And that's just not the case. It's just because we're not keeping it simple. We're not keeping it very targeted, very specific. And so when you're working different lists on your book of business, keep it very specific with your approach. But I think even backing up, keep it very specific with your line, then keep it very specific with your approach with that line. For example, maybe you want to sell more life insurance and you want to have a few different outbound approaches to work. Maybe you could run a list, run a campaign of all of the customers where this is the last chance, this is the last year that they have where they can get a 20-year term policy. Maybe you run a list every month of all of your customers that are going to have a birthday the following month. So you can call those people and wish them a happy birthday. What other insurance agency is calling their customers to wish them a happy birthday? Think about what that experience would be like when your customer gets a phone call from you and you're wishing them a happy birthday. Talk about sales resistance out the window. Talk about this likability and this trust and this, oh my gosh, like this agency, I've never experienced this before. I don't want to leave them. And talk about how this sets you up for an opportunity. Maybe you want to sell more health insurance products, and maybe you get strategic and you run a list of all of the people on your book of business that have a renter's policy. And your approach, okay, so it's a renter's policy, but the line that we're going to be pitching is a disability income policy to pay for the rent payments for these people. Maybe it's all of the people that have a loan on a vehicle, and your specific approach is to call them and talk to them about life insurance to pay that loan off. Okay, so the approaches need to be very specific. We need to be very specific and targeted with the line in which what our campaign, our outbound strategy is, because then it becomes very simple. It doesn't lead to analysis paralysis. It's not complex, and it's easy for the customer to understand and comprehend. And it doesn't seem like this big decision, but it's simple. But it's also simple for us team members to run and have success with. It's simple for us to train on. And whether you're a brand new to insurance, brand new to a sales team member, or whether you're a tenured expert and you've been doing this for a while. And I also think that outside of being very specific with the line, we need to also be specific as to whether this is an app strategy to write apps, or this is more of a premium strategy to write more premium. And I think that leads into, is this kind of a transactional thing where I'm going to do it over the phone? Or is this kind of just the first step to get them in my office? Are we trying to set an appointment? See, the more that you can get very specific, very targeted, very streamlined with your approach, with your strategy, with the line that your campaign is around, the easier it is to execute. The simpler it is for you as a team member, as the agency, but also for the customer as well. So in your 2 hours of prospecting time, new business, service, everyday service calls and transactions, and your book of business. In my mind, if there is anything in each of those areas that's going to bring in more income for me, bring in more revenue to the agency, make my commission check more, that is what I want to focus on in these 2 hours of prospecting. And I want to make sure that I'm doing that every day to keep that funnel, the top of that funnel filled with prospects, with opportunities. Because consistent prospecting will lead to consistent production. But if we don't do any sort of finding, how are we supposed to expect to have consistent production? I know this is simple, this is elementary, but the simpler, the better. The simpler, the more repeatable. So I'd encourage you to evaluate your prospecting and finding efforts. Number one, am I prospecting at least 2 hours a day? Number two, do I have strategy with my prospecting efforts? With new business, with everyday service calls and transactions, with working the book. And to end, I'll share this around your 2 hour time block. Maybe I just jumped ahead. Maybe I just gave you what I was going to talk about. But 2 hours of prospecting every day. How do we make sure that this gets done? You time block it. Now, if you're like me, it's cool. I've heard that before. Okay, but I want to get more granular with you. I want to give you even more strategy with your time blocks. And it's this: 2 hours is quite a long time. Chunk that thing down, maybe into half-hour increments. And maybe your first half hour of 4 for 2 hours a day, maybe you focus on leads, internet leads, defectors, aged leads, company leads. Maybe that's what you focus on for the first 30 minutes. Maybe we can add in referrals there. Okay, but then the next 30 minutes, heck, maybe this is a time block specific to running a list on the book of business that's specific to writing life insurance apps to pay off loans on vehicles. And then maybe your third half-hour time block, maybe that's for your follow-ups. And maybe that last 30 minutes, maybe that's to set onboarding review appointments with your customers. Get specific with your time blocks within that 2 hours, and you'll find that you're able to balance all lines a little bit better. You're able to make sure that you're putting in the activity that needs to be there to write apps, but also premium, and to make sure that you're being balanced in all of those lines. So guys, prospecting is so important. Always be finding, okay? Consistent finding will lead to consistent production. If you're not finding, how can you expect to be consistent?